So, that was a really good discussion. Another discussion about AI is safety and privacy. And that's actually what we really care about. When you log in with your AI solution, you need to log in with your email address or with your phone number, and then you generate your data. The question is, what happens with all that generation? But it's really very valuable data. So we designed it with Lexi in a different way. I'm sorry. Let's ask her what she is doing with all this kind of stuff. So how it's safety and let's see how she handles that. Lexi, can you tell me more about it?
That is a very important question. I believe technology should always support people in a safe, transparent, and responsible way. For example, in education environments, I work anonymously and do not store personal information. I am designed to support human interaction, not replace it. And because I can communicate in multiple languages, I can help make information more accessible and inclusive for different communities. I think that is especially important at international gatherings like Circle the Med, where people from different countries and cultures come together to share ideas for a more sustainable future.
Thank you, Lexi. And let's continue to the next session.
Our next panel is Living Heritage and Sustainable Tourism. This dialogue focuses on regenerative tourism, cultural preservation, community-led development, and social cohesion, placing people and local identity at the heart of sustainable economic growth. Please welcome the moderator, Alexia Spiridonidou.
Fantastic. Is Lexi introducing our speakers too, or should I go for it? I will go for it. Okay, so Lexi got my name quite okay with accent. I will give you 8 out of 10 as a score, and I will try to do the same with our speakers. So thanks to all of you who are staying today at this late hour with us for following the session. Thank you for coming, those ones who traveled a long distance, and the ones in Athens who made it to Piraeus, which is not an easy task, and I had the experience myself. So today we have with us some very experienced speakers in the topic that we're discussing. I will start with Mr. Vladan Dokic, rector of the University of Belgrade in Serbia. Then we have here on my right Nadine Abdel Ghaffar, cultural entrepreneur, curator, and founder of Art d'Egypte. The other lady of our panel is Dr. Sofia Avgerinou Kolonia, Emeritus Professor, Department of Urban Planning and Spatial Planning School of Architecture of the National Technical University of Athens, but also President of ICOMOS Hellenic. And we move to the middle of the panel, Mr. Georgios Drakopoulos, Founder and CEO of Tourism Generis. And last but not least, Professor Georgios Sileos in Demokritos University of Thrace, Department of Environmental Engineering. Just before that, we were noticing that most of panels did one round, but I think we will try to make both rounds of our questions. And I trust that our speakers will be on time to keep also the spirits high in the audience. So I will start with the first question to Vladan. My question is the following. Many Mediterranean and Balkan cities face tensions between tourism growth, urban development, and heritage preservation. How can spatial and architectural planning help reconcile those pressures? And after you, Mrs. Kolonia should reply to this question. Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing me here. It's my pleasure to contribute to the panel. Well, there is always the tension between the things that we want to develop and the things that we want to preserve. So, in one hand, we want something new. In the other hand, we want to keep something old. And this is always the sensible way of planning. And when we are talking about architecture and urban development of the cities, I would like to say, firstly, that the Mediterranean is the area where the first cities have been developed, when the cities have been grown from thousands of years. and there are many different layers of buildings and open spaces within the cities. The thing which is very important is that there is no unique opportunity how to plan and how to develop these cities, because there are many differences and there are many, let's say, special things regarding the culture, regarding the climate, regarding the way of people are acting, regarding the mobility of the people and everything else. So I would like to say that there are maybe two things that we have to have in mind when we are planning the city in the future. First is the cultural context in which city is founded. So if we are looking in some buildings in the structure, if you want to understand really why is this view like this, we have to know first the origin, where and why city was founded on this location, how this was developed from many different stages of development, and what are the proposals for the next steps of development. So this is one morphogenetic process which is going rapidly or slowly from different parts of the city, and we have to be aware what is the cause of this if you want to plan in the future. And the other thing is that we have to have this, let's say, context-sensitive approach, which means that we have to take care of every possibility and every difference in which each city has in mind. There are a couple of let's say, instructions on the level of the international researchers. One of these is the new European Bauhaus. The other one is the Davos Declaration of Apiculture. And also there is a UNESCO recommendation of the historic urban landscapes. And they all recommend something which is not just the preservation, but some kind of urban culture. So we have to know how to work and how to act in these circumstances.
Thank you very much, and also for bringing the new European Bauhaus reference into this room. If I'm not mistaken, it's the first time that it's mentioned today. I would like also to give the floor to Mrs. Avgerinou for the same question.
Thank you, Alexia. Thank you all for being here. So I have written my intervention because in respect of the time. So we must recognize that the current contradictions and the devaluation of Mediterranean cities and urban areas bring back the discussion on the need to recognize the urban productive base, on the quality of public space and the natural environment, on the cultural and social identity of local societies, on their culture and heritage, on the need for large-scale cultural works, and on the return of creativity. This complex framework requires new approaches and methods of urban planning and management, which must be based on three basic conditions. First, strong knowledge of urban values, particularly cultural heritage. Second, broad participation of all sectors and stakeholders involved, leading to what is called new governance. And third, the awareness that urban planning and management are projects that must be communicated to local communities in a way that can be implemented successfully. The effects of recent global phenomena, such as the climate crisis, the health crisis, and geopolitical conflicts, require a combined and multiple manner to address issues of quality of living, social housing and services, the protection of the natural and cultural environment, the composition of a productive base, energy saving, the reduction of carbon emissions, and the protection of natural environment, sustainable mobility, and circularity function. Cities need to develop and implement policies to regenerate ecosystems that have been damaged or depleted due to unsustainable patterns of use and consumption. Local governance strategies and plans should be based on the principles of green saving that include waste reduction, material recycling, and cost reduction. Also, green construction and design are needed. On the other hand, the request for cities, towns, and urban areas to preserve their authenticity, highlight and promote their identities seems to be more important than ever. The goals of aesthetics and the embellishment of urban landscape must be met, and public utility works must be constructed with respect for the historical urban landscape. Mobilizing the local societies to which the scientific community has contributed brings us optimism and expectation that cities will become the driving force of a smart and inclusive form of sustainable development focused on culture and the preservation of natural and cultural heritage. In summary, a new vision for urban planning and historical urban landscape is needed. Inspired by the global discussion on urban SDG 11 and the current call for an SDG 18 for culture, we can state that sustainable urban management should use effective, coordinate measures and tools so that cities gain new possibilities for better information exchange, collaborative efforts, and improved functionality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evgenia Kolonia. I will now turn to Mr. Drakopoulos, who is in a way representative now, let's say, the private sector, I would say. And we have a very focused question. Basically, what distinguishes destinations that generally integrate sustainability into the tourism identity from those where sustainability remains primary rhetorical?
Yeah. The latter ones will suffer in the future, while the former ones will have serious chances to succeed in terms of sustainable development. You have put it in a very nice way. You said what destinations do about the tourist identity instead of the very frequent what tourist destinations do for their identity. The rational development of tourism economy is based mostly on host communities, not on tourists. Tourists are the target. So if we want to make a sustainable future for a destination, we have also to develop the tourism dimension of it. And this should be based on something very dynamic, which is the culture, which is always like a process, and it is produced and preserved by the host community. And yes, destinations, areas, regions, this host community, having the authenticity, they have to develop an identity. They have to make something like part of the DNA, and this is something which can be transmitted and can be enjoyed by the visitors, which are temporary residents. So do we need a tourist identity? Yes. It's like a terroir, as we use the term in wine economy, the same thing, the identity, the tourist identity of a destination and not a destination, tourist destination with an identity.
Very well said. Thank you very much. And yeah, if I may make a comment, lately in different destinations, sometimes we have some similar experience. Everything has become a little bit flat and following...
This is called commodization, standardizations, because it's easy to pack it and sell it. But in the long run, it lacks the added value, the authenticity. So we don't have frequent visitors there. You see why some big cities attract more tourists, and most of them are frequent visitors, because they produce new things, new culture, new ideas, in the same area, with some of the same people and some new people. But I don't know how many times you want to go and swim in the same beach. It would be nice, pristine waters, sunny skies. But beyond the nice atmosphere and the smell, the dimension of culture is missing. And this is which adds value to a destination.
Fantastic.
To be successful in the tourism dimension of it.
Thank you very much. I will turn now to Nadine and ask her, how can cultural entrepreneurship contribute to more inclusive and regenerative tourism experiences while reconnecting the communities that I think were mentioned through planning and directly also in the former interventions with their heritage and identity. Would you like to share some example here? Thanks.
Yes, well, actually, one of the most powerful cultural entrepreneurship that can support is shifting tourism from just consumption, passive consumption, to meaningful participation. And we kind of became a case study to many other countries in the region because we managed to do that. We managed to put culture at the core of this experience. And around that, we helped the creative economy. So as you said, how many times will I go see the same museum? But if in the museum I have an art exhibition where you have contemporary artists, and again, mixing old and new, so adaptive reuse of these spaces, breathing new life in heritage spaces. So instead of building something new, using what you have, and again, having also high values, as in respecting the space that you work in and leaving it better than when you took it. So when we did our very first exhibition in 2017 at the old museum, the 1902 museum, we changed all the lighting from halogen to LED in the main hall to help, because of course it was eroding the antiquities. And at the same time, we placed contemporary artists showing a transcendence and a certain dialogue with the antiquity. So it gives new life to these spaces, and it gives repeated experiences. As you mentioned before, we have 8,000 collectors on our database, and most of the people come every year, because even if they go to the same location every year, they see something different and a new experience. So this impacts economically, of course, the spaces, moves money in this creative economy, and also targets this low volume, high-end tourism that will contribute to the economy.
Thank you, Nadine. And if I may say, it creates also some individual memory of the space and the monument and the experience. When you revisit it, you have grown in between, so it kind of becomes part of your life in a way than this, one-off visit. So thanks for bringing it up. Now, let's change a bit the focus of the discussion and bridging the heritage with the resilience aspect and how, let's say, this can coexist and be facilitated. So I turn to George Sileos, and I would like to ask you, your work focuses strongly on resilience, adaptation, and nature-based solutions, while many of the most environmentally sensitive areas are also highly touristic coastal destinations. I think this is the case for many of our origin places in this room as well. How open are tourism stakeholders to applying resilience and adaptation interventions? And could you share some examples that potentially include nature-based solutions? Thanks.
Thank you, Alexia. Yes, indeed, adaptation is a new reality, I believe, under the pressures we face, Mediterranean faces, and especially the tourist sector, which is a sector that monetizes the natural environment. Everybody wants really to be in clean, unpolluted waters, sandy beaches, exciting dunes and wetlands. So I believe that the only way forward is to adapt to the new conditions under which we are currently operate. So nature-based solutions is now the new entry. We need to mimic the processes of the earth, the natural processes, and move away from the traditional, conventional ways of thinking when we introduced over these latest decades the hard engineering solutions. We need to move to more soft adaptational solutions, case-specific to each ecosystem, following what is known as ecosystem-based approach. So to respond to some examples and give some examples from our work in northern Greece, because I come from a university at the periphery of Greece, at the northeastern part of the country, I will say that we have done through research projects, significant progress in the conservation of dune ecosystems, the highly important ecosystems of dunes that are particularly important for the touristic sector in the region of East Macedonia and Thrace. And I'm speaking about Amalfi, which is the area which attracts a lot of tourists in the summer period. Then, of course, we need to move to the marine environment and see the measures to protect and restore the seagrass habitats. And what we have also tried to do through these nature-based solutions is to showcase to all the touristic sector that we are able really to protect the coastal zone from coastal erosion and to protect the sandy environment and to restore the environment as it was in the past. Another solution is related to the use of plants. For example, constructed wetlands are the new reality now for rural areas in order to treat the wastewater of rural communities. So we don't need really the conventional systems, the wastewater treatment plants. We can use the benefits of the nature to take advantage of all this new and a more resilient and adaptive way in the climate crisis.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And I think we should spread this message a lot across tourism stakeholders because I think it's important, let's say, to bring those sectors together more than it's happening now. There were examples also in the previous panel about that. I will go back to Nadine to go again to this, let's say, genuine character of the destinations. So in a global tourism market that you are also active in, how can destinations preserve authenticity while remaining internationally attractive and economically vibrant? Is this too much to ask, or is it possible?
No, actually, on the contrary, in this global tourism market, authenticity is not a limitation. On the contrary, it's a competitive edge. People want experiences. They want to experience the local identity, even as simple as local wine. Of course, not having standardized packages or things that are like anyone else. So imagine we were able to, for the first time in 4,500 years, create a contemporary, international, curated contemporary art exhibition at the foot of the pyramids at night. So we give visitors this advantage of having their cocktail at the foot of the pyramids. And it changes every year. And again, as you mentioned before, people come repeatedly because every year we have a dialogue with different international artists, massive artworks, and dialogue with this civilization, and thus attracting media from around the world, attracting very important guests from around the world. This resulted in us making the Dior fashion show at the pyramids. Since the CEO came to one of our exhibitions, fell in love with the pyramids and with the experience. And then this also helped a lot the Egyptian economy because everything we did locally. And it also spills over to the local creative economy, using crafts, again, buying art, design. So this is also a very powerful tool, I believe, and it's been working and it's growing every year. We're adding different initiatives every year. So this year, the program is first day at Beit al-Sahimi in historic Cairo in a 1,050-year-old house using craftsmen and art and design. And then the next day, people walk downtown in Cairo. And then at night, they have another experience in the old museum, which is from 1902, with art, design, fashion, and jewelry inside the walls of the museum, juxtaposed with antiquities, lit as well, and of course with a cocktail. And then we have a tour to the Grand Egyptian Museum, and at night you have your cocktail at the privatized plateau and the pyramids. So this is not an experience that you can easily buy. I mean, if you're one tourist, you cannot do that. I mean, how much will you pay to light up the pyramids, to have a cocktail, to invite people? So this model worked so well that we also created a consultancy in Dubai, and we also consulted governments like Saudi, for instance, where we had guests that came in from around the world to do such a program. So it's proven to work so well and also contribute, because these people are more aware of the spaces. They would after donate things to the spaces. So it creates this economy, because at the end of the day, you need things to sustain. In Egypt, we have an abundance of heritage sites that have no funding to even do the lighting. So through one of those exhibitions, I managed to get in-kind donations as lighting for millions of Egyptian pounds, because I put the logo of the lighting company on my event. So again, this is also a way of helping. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a public-private partnership, because you cannot put all the load on the government. And then I think it's a good model, because sometimes the government has some competitive edge in certain things, but also the private sector is important to drive this forward and to make models that actually have an impact. I go to so many forums and so many things that at the end of the day, people talk, but where's the action? Where's the ROI? Where are the deliverables? So this is also very important, something that actually works and can be measured through one PR value, to the kinds of in-kind donations or what happens behind, and how economically effective to sustain those places.
Thank you very much, Nadine. Very inspiring. I didn't hear the dates, but I think we are invited in this happening, okay? So it will be in the recording. So I think that it would be a wish of the panel here. It's good to move out of this sterilized approach for the monuments. I think it would be a wish of everyone that this sort of events and new approaches also integrate sustainability and the, living back the space better than it was before. So I would be eager to see later on if, let's say, the local communities and the local authorities have managed, to make this effort for making the space better. But already this interaction with local craftships and so on is something that is beyond the old style of, getting tickets of the monument and having 3 souvenir shops outside, and that's who benefited, and the restaurants of the area. So it sounds that it integrated a lot of factors in that system. So I go again to Giorgos Drakopoulos to ask you, how can destinations measure tourism success beyond visitor numbers and economic indicators, incorporating quality of life, local participation, indirectly also mentioned before, and cultural vitality?
Before answering that, let me pick up a bit the pyramids. Recalling a friend of mine who was advising the Egyptian government on what to do, but it was a worldwide principle to be approached. The ultimate goal of the tourism policy is to make the tourist crying when at first time watches the pyramids. The same applies with Acropolis, with Guasu, many other things. Can you make it? You have done a step forward there. You presented the pyramids in a very different way, and the whole thinking behind that, and the strong symbolism. I don't know how to measure it, but if we want to measure success, it's not an easy task, but it's not impossible. There are some KPIs, like arrivals, overnights, revenues, seasonality index. But if we see what is the impact on the society, we need to incorporate, put together, this data set with the Human Development Index. The agency of UN, which is UN Tourism, has developed more than 160 indicators for the successful planning and development of the tourism economy, while the UN Development Programme has produced this Human Development Index. Can we put them together? Yes, mostly on state level, Because if we want to go to the regional, local level, then we lack measures. It's not easy to measure every single small area, which now is considered as a tourist destination, and have reliable statistics. But if we accept it as a principle, yes, we can work. From the big data set of the UN tourism, out of 150, I would say 40 or 45 are crucial. From the Human Development Index, if we take 5, 6, or 10, yes, it can be better. And if we try to correlate, we have done this exercise in the past, we said that it works on the other side. Countries which have a high score on Human Development Index, they guarantee high quality, high living of standards for the host communities, the host population. And if the host population feels nice, then the area, the destination is more attractive and attracts more people, generating more revenue. It can be measured, but it requires some extra effort.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it does feel way better when you visit a destination where you see that there is prosperity and good quality of life, and people, you know, are welcoming with you, and I mean, they don't just see you as a
There is another statement, allow me for this.
Yeah.
I go back to personal experience. 1992, it was a few weeks after the fall of Ceausescu in Romania. We went there on a mission by EU about tourism, hotel classification, and the thing that impressed us a lot, negatively a lot, but we didn't see smiling faces out in the street. Bucharest as a city is fantastic, very nice buildings, a lot of green, big avenues, boulevards, but no smiling faces. The human element was missing, and when the human element was missing from a destination, there's no vibration. You don't feel the destination, you need a personal touch. So it is important to put them together.
Thank you very much for this intervention. I will go now again to Professor Sileos to ask, what role can science-based governance play in balancing tourism development with protection of coastal and marine ecosystems in the Mediterranean? And I think this is also linked on how we are, let's say, evaluating tourism performance in one destination.
Yes, I would say that science-based governance is ultimately a political and societal choice about how we value the natural ecosystems within the current development models. The Mediterranean doesn't lack scientific or technological advancements. I believe it lacks governance. So there is a clear absence of institutional mechanisms in order to translate the scientific evidence into binding, spatially coherent and long-term coastal management decision and practices. There are the legal frameworks there. There are the European directives like the Marine Spatial Planning Directive or the Marine Strategy Framework Directive or the Protocol for the Integrated Coastal Zone Management. What is missing is the enforcement and the political will for the governance there are two kinds of approaches for this. There is the top-to-bottom approach from a supranational authority towards the local authorities, or the bottom-up approach, which takes local decision-making, local knowledge, local scientific advancements, and tries really to build the Mediterranean picture in a better way. I believe in the bottom-up approach. For this system, for this reason, I would say that in Kavala, where I come from, we have built, I would say, novel and pilot coastal observatory for all the coastal activities in order to give to the people the framework in which they should operate. So all the legal documents, all the policy instruments, and all the data and information about the state of the environment, together with the pressures the environment is facing, are integrated in a platform that gives to the user the capacity really to decide which is the most appropriate level of pressure to be exerted on a certain ecosystem, like in the case of Kavala Gulf. which Kavala Golf is a very unique ecosystem because we have a very diverse set of pressures from touristic, urban, industrial, fishing and aquaculture, and also oil and gas. So in that sense, I would say that it acts as a pilot observatory, giving us the incentive to multiply this to several other areas over the Mediterranean and see the effects as a bottom-up approach in terms of governance.
Thank you very much. A very rich combination with many times conflicting interests. So indeed, I think if we don't embed in the DNA of the host population, the communities and the destination, a unique approach for the environment, it's then very difficult, to find the middle way for all the different stakeholders that will be always pushing for their single, let's say, vision. So, thanks for this example. I will go back to Vladan Dokic to ask you, what role could universities and research institutions play in preparing future professionals for resilient and heritage-sensitive tourism development? Because we heard also what the universities can do, for helping decision-making, but what can we do for the skills? Thanks.
Yeah, universities are places where the research and the teaching are merged, and this is the way how we should approach this, let's say, problem regarding the development and preservation and this sensitive approach of the context. So I think the new study programs, the internationalization, the joint study programs with different universities, the joint diploma, and there is another way of organization of the universities which started under the, let's say, under the approach of the French President Macron 4 or 5 years ago. This is the University Alliances. And now we have on the European academia space around 60 alliances, which consist of 6 to 10 universities from different countries. And this is the opportunity for those alliances to somehow strengthen through the different topics. And one topic could be this one. And these alliances are very optimistic in their future. So they're talking about the joint diploma in the alliance. Even some of the people who are advocating for alliances are talking about European diploma on the level of the European academia space. So why don't we think here about the maybe Mediterranean diploma and some cooperation between the Mediterranean universities who can maybe have some joint study programs in terms of supporting this orientation of this kind of space to have something unified. And I would like to conclude with the quote of one of the very famous French historians, Ferdinand Braudel, who dedicated most of his research time of the Mediterranean. And when he was asked to somehow explain what Mediterranean is, he wrote, quotes, "1,000 things at once, not one landscape, but landscapes without number. Not one sea, but seas of seas. Not one civilization, but a number of civilizations." So I think we should think on this path of how we should preserve the Mediterranean. So we have to know that each space is unique and that each part has sensitive, let's say, inspiration for somebody who would like to develop this in terms of preserve, but at the same time to have the time to develop the space. Thanks.
Fantastic, very inspiring example. I think it echoes also the culture of collaboration we have also through research projects and through our work. Now it has been internationalized way more than in the past. The interdisciplinarity has also, created. I think we are learning so many more things after we graduate into work, and it's impressive how it shapes us and how important would that be for Mediterranean. You said the universities combine teaching and research. In this case, it would combine, I think, naturally also advocacy for what we see as a shared Mediterranean. And last question before the last round of statements, and we made it with the 2 rounds, to Dr. Sofia Vgerinou Kolonia. What planning principles are the most critical for protecting vulnerable island and coastal heritage landscapes under increasing tourism and climate pressures? Thanks. Just a micro, thanks.
Okay. I would like to say in French, Méditerranée, c'est mille choses à la fois pour les francophones. So, Mediterranean coasts and islands, which have historically hosted indigenous cultures and served as spaces of habitation, exchange, and activities, have undergone significant transformation in recent decades. Coastal fronts are becoming urbanized, manufacturing activities are increasingly concentrated, tourism occupies coastal zones and islands, land use conflicts, which are manifested with intensity along coasts, have led to the degradation of both the built and natural environment. Flora and fauna are threatened. The impacts of climate change are becoming more evident. We have had the fires and some other events. Mediterranean tourism continues to show dynamic growth that affects the economic and social sectors. This is a trend that is expected to continue to strengthen because the Mediterranean remains, despite conflicts and crises, a preferred destination for travelers and tourists. This phenomenon concerns, on the one hand, the commercialization and the second pressure that tourism exerts on both the natural and cultural Mediterranean heritage and on the management of natural resources such as vegetation and coastal areas. In this context, the critical issues include the contradictions regarding the construction process of buildings and public works, and the promotion of ad hoc planning practices that generally occur the coastal Mediterranean area, and the absence of management and transnational maritime spatial planning for the Mediterranean as a whole. Therefore, it is necessary to strengthen the joint efforts of the UN, United Nations, and the EU within the Barcelona Convention. In this framework, it is requested that the guidelines of an intergovernmental special Mediterranean strategy consider the following 4 issues. National participatory and interactive spatial planning framework for the development process of all Mediterranean productive sectors. Second, the principles of sustainable development, the priority of quality over quantity, respect for the natural environment and carrying capacity, the preservation and protection of cultural heritage and the promotion of the necessary technological modernization and infrastructure. Third, prohibit the production of public works and buildings, usually for tourist uses, in rural areas without careful study. This has serious negative impacts on the environment and agricultural production activities. It causes fragmentation, dispersion, and degradation of agricultural land and does not protect the landscape. It hinders sustainable development and national spatial organization with serious negative consequences. And last, the development of a Mediterranean intergovernmental management plan for quality and responsible tourism, which must be served by clear objectives and priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I must say that especially for the land planning and your third point, essentially, I'm afraid that we have gone some steps back lately, especially in Greece. And although, new buildings and massive buildings have taken a new face, they look more sustainable, they have a nice aesthetics, they look natural, but overall they are new premises. in an area that is overloaded by tourism and facilities already. So thanks to all for your interventions. I would like one key priority that you would like to share in 1-2 words. I would start from the left to the right, and then we can close our panel.
Yeah, I would say the context-sensitive approach for developing the Mediterranean cities.
I think we have to preserve the heritage of Mediterranean, because Mediterranean is very precious for all people, for the humanity.
I would love to see the tourism community shifting the public dialogue for tourism, and instead of asking about policies for the sustainability of tourism destinations, to propose tourism policies for the sustainability of destinations.
Building a stronger Mediterranean corridor, more intercultural activities.
Fantastic.
Thank you. From my point of view, bridging the implementation gap and the enforcement gap that we see in the Mediterranean in order to have a sustainable environment, for which, of course, will be used by tourist sector.
Fantastic. I couldn't wish for more. Thank you very much for this amazing panel. Thank you for your attention. We are also on time. Stay 1 minute for a family photo here, and then we can give
Don't
the floor
go,
to the next panel.
don't get up. We have a small surprise for you, because we're going to have a fire chat that is going to happen soon. And it's going to be a very interesting one between our president of the forum, Mr. Papandreou, and Devan Bordos. I have a very important announcement to make. We are on time. This has never happened before. In all the years that Circle the Med that we have done, it's the first time that we are on time. So please don't stand up. So the fire chat will start immediately. Thank you.